Okay, so you shared some research on explainable AI, and wow, this feels big.
It does, doesn't it?
It feels like we're really diving into something big here
Yeah?
with this idea that we're building AI, to be fair,
Right.
but we're training it on a history that, well, is anything BT fair?
Yeah, it really highlights a paradox, I think, in our expectations of artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
where we want it to be better than us.
Mm,
We want it to learn from our mistakes.
right.
But what if its entire curriculum IS those mistakes?
Yeah. It's like if you were trying to cram for a history test,
Yeah.
but the textbook you had was written entirely by one side.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
what happens when you feed a computer
Totally.
every book, every speech, every single piece of writing that humanity has ever produced? Are we just setting it up to inherit all of our blind spots?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this research argued that it's way more complex than just blaming the data.
Okay.
Uses the example of RLHF,
RLHF.
which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback.
Okay, so RLHF,
Yeah.
that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Give us the rundown on that.
Yeah, essentially it's like we're trying to train a dog, but we never clearly say no.
Okay.
So in RLHF, we try to kind of correct AI outputs after the fact
Okay.
if we don't like the results,
Got it.
instead of addressing the core issue within the data itself.
So instead of fixing the recipe, we're just trying to, like, adjust the seasoning at the very end.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the author of this research piece poses this really interesting question. Is it even fair to expect AI to be completely unbiased?
Mm,
To see all sides equally
right.
when it's been trained on millennia of biased information.
Right.
It's like dropping someone into a foreign country
Right.
and the only thing they have is like a very small phrase book,
Yeah.
and you're expecting them to understand every cultural nuance.
It's never going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. And it also mentioned AI hallucinations.
Yes.
Now, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like these hallucinations usually pop up when we ask AI about something
Right.
that it hasn't specifically been trained on.
Right.
So is it even fair to blame the AI for, like, making a best guess
Sure.
when it's in totally uncharted territory?
Well, this is where the concept of sufficiently explainable AI enters the picture. What if instead of us needing to unpack every single detail of the training process,
Yeah.
we focus on verifying the AI's work,
Okay.
recognizing when it veers off course, and then also having mechanisms to contain those errors?
So we're talking about building in, like, a sort of BS detector.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
For the AI's own thought process.
Try it.
This research argues that instead of attempting the impossible, which is scrubbing clean millennia of biased human history from the AI's training data,
Right.
we should prioritize being able to understand and verify the results those models generate.
Okay, so a bit more of a realistic goal, perhaps.
Perhaps.
But how do we even begin to build an AI that can explain its reasoning?
Right.
Especially when we're talking about these incredibly complex language models
Yeah.
that seem to operate almost like a black box.
Well, one approach involves designing AI models with greater transparency.
Okay.
Right now, many AI models operate in a way where we feed in data
Right.
and we get an output,
Yeah.
but the process in between remains largely opaque.
Okay.
It's like using a navigation app that tells you where to go,
Right.
but not why it chose that particular route.
Okay, so instead of just getting directions from point A to B,
Right.
you'd also get, like, a detailed breakdown of, like,
Exactly.
why that route was chosen.
Yes,
Traffic patterns, road closures, even, like, maybe scenic detours.
precisely.
Okay.
And while achieving that level of transparency with today's AI is incredibly challenging,
Sure.
it is definitely a goal that many researchers are working towards.
That makes a lot of sense because, I mean, if we're going to entrust AI with making important decisions, we need to be able to understand the reasoning behind those decisions.
Of course.
It's not just about trusting the AI. It's
Uh-huh.
about, like, having enough information to kind of verify its conclusions independently.
Absolutely. And that's where the sufficiently explainable AI comes into play.
Okay.
We may not need to understand every single neuron firing in an AI's artificial brain,
Right.
but we do need enough insight to trust its judgment,
Yeah.
especially when the stakes are high.
Especially when the stakes are high, yeah.
Yeah.
This is really making me think differently about how we approach AI development. Instead of just focusing on making AI smarter, faster, more efficient,
Right.
we also need to prioritize making it more understandable.
And that might require us to rethink some of our fundamental assumptions about AI design.
Right.
Instead of building systems that are optimized for pure performance,
Right.
we might need to prioritize transparency and explainability,
Yeah.
even if it means sacrificing some degree of efficiency or accuracy.
It's almost like we're shifting from a paradigm of AI as a tool
Yes.
to AI as like a collaborator. And
Yes.
if we're going to collaborate effectively,
Right.
we need to be able to communicate and understand each other's thought processes.
Precisely. And that communication, that ability to explain its reasoning
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense to us humans,
Yeah.
that could be the key to building truly trustworthy AI.
This is absolutely fascinating. We're talking about building AI that can not only think,
Right.
but also explain its thinking.
Yes.
And in doing so, potentially teach us a thing or two about ourselves.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
That in trying to create AI that's more understandable, more transparent,
You're right.
we might actually gain a deeper understanding of our own thought processes and biases.
It's like holding up a mirror to our own minds.
Yeah,
But instead of a reflection, we see like the inner workings of a complex AI.
it's true.
This is a deep dive I did not see coming, and we're just getting started.
It's gonna be good.
So we're kind of on this quest for AI that can explain itself.
Yeah.
Almost like if you could imagine like a coworker
Right.
who, instead of just like handing you the finished product,
Yeah.
can actually like justify their decisions and like tell you how they got there.
Right.
But isn't that kind of like trying to teach a dog to talk? Like, where do we even begin?
It's definitely a challenge, but there are these really promising avenues that researchers are exploring. And one of the most intriguing approaches draws inspiration from how our own brains function.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about building AI that's more like us, like
Yes.
mimicking human cognition.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
You know, the humans, for all of our flaws,
Sure.
we have this incredible capacity for recognizing patterns,
Right.
for connecting seemingly unrelated dots.
Yeah.
And even for like identifying potential biases.
At least in our, right.
Well, at least in ourselves. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and it's like our brains are these incredible prediction machines, right?
Yes.
Constantly trying to kind of make sense of the world around us,
Yeah.
even when it's messy and unpredictable.
Exactly.
Right.
And while we're obviously far from replicating the full complexity of the human brain,
Right.
researchers are finding ways to incorporate some of those cognitive principles into AI design.
Give us an example. Like, how do you go from a brain in a jar to like lines of code?
So imagine an AI system that's designed to evaluate loan applications.
Okay.
Currently, these systems often operate as those black boxes.
Right.
They just kind of spit out a yes or no with very little transparency into the factors that influence the decision.
Which can be incredibly frustrating
Incredibly
for
frustrating.
the applicant, especially if they're rejected and they have no idea why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now imagine a system that doesn't just deliver a verdict,
Okay.
but also provides this clear breakdown of the factors that influenced its decision.
Okay.
It might highlight specific data points from the applicant's credit history, their income, or even external factors like market trends.
So it's not just about getting a yes or no.
Right.
It's about understanding like the why behind the decision.
Exactly.
And that feels like a huge step forward in terms of transparency.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
By making the decision-making process more transparent, we open the door for human oversight and intervention.
So instead of just blindly trusting the AI,
Right.
we can now kind of double check its work.
Yes.
Spot potential errors or even identify instances where the AI might be relying on biased or incomplete information.
Precisely. It's about creating a system of checks and balances
Okay.
where humans and AI are working together to ensure fair and ethical outcomes.
That makes a lot of sense because it's almost like having a second set of eyes.
Right.
But instead of another human, it's this like incredibly powerful AI that can process these vast amounts of data
Right.
and maybe highlight potential blind spots that we as humans might miss.
Exactly. And that's the real power of explainable AI.
Okay.
It's not about replacing human judgment.
Yeah.
It's about augmenting it,
Right.
giving us the tools we need to make more informed, ethical, and ultimately better decisions.
Yeah, it's starting to feel less like man versus machine
Yes.
and more like man with machine.
Yeah, with machines.
Yeah, we're taking this powerful technology
Yeah.
and using it to kind of address some of the inherent limitations of our own thinking.
And who knows, in the process of teaching AI to be more transparent, more accountable, we might even learn a thing or two about ourselves.
Right, it's like holding up a mirror
Exactly.
to our own decision-making processes.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That in striving to create AI that's more human-like
Yeah.
in its ability to kind of explain its reasoning,
Right.
we might actually gain a deeper understanding of what it means to be human.
It's like we're about to sign on to this incredible partnership with
Yeah.
AI,
Right.
but for it to actually work,
Yeah.
we need to establish some really clear lines of communication
Good
that
line.
build trust
Absolutely.
and kind of acknowledge that even the most advanced AI
Right.
is still ultimately a reflection of its creators,
Yeah.
which is us.
Exactly. And that brings us back to like the heart of this research paper, right?
Okay.
And its focus on sufficiently explainable AI.
Right.
It's not just about making AI smarter or more capable.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that it operates within a framework of accountability, one where we understand its limitations as well as its potential.
Because let's face it, even with the best intentions, things can go wrong.
Of course.
We were talking earlier about AI hallucinations.
Yes.
These moments where AI seems to just invent facts or veer off into completely unexpected territory.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, those hallucinations can have real world consequences.
Absolutely.
Right.
Imagine an AI system that's designed to provide medical diagnoses
Okay.
based on a patient's symptoms.
Right.
A hallucination in that context
Yeah.
could lead to a misdiagnosis, potentially putting a patient's health at risk.
It is a chilling thought.
Right.
And it really underscores why this push for explainability is so crucial.
Yeah.
We need to be able to trace back the AI's reasoning,
Yes.
understand where it might have gone off track, and hopefully prevent those errors from happening again.
It's about creating a system where we're not just blindly trusting the AI's output,
Right.
but we're actively engaging with it,
Oh.
questioning its assumptions,
Yeah.
refining its understanding over time.
So it's less about building the perfect AI
Yes.
and more about building AI that we can perfect through collaboration and continuous learning.
Exactly. In that process of collaboration,
Yeah.
that back and forth between human and machine,
Right.
that might be where the real magic happens.
Okay.
As we strive to make AI more explainable,
Yeah.
we might find ourselves asking deeper questions
Okay.
about our own decision-making processes,
Right.
our own biases, our own understanding of the world.
It's like this incredible feedback loop where the quest to build more trustworthy AI ends up making us more trustworthy thinkers.
It's a beautiful possibility, isn't it?
It is.
That in teaching AI to explain itself,
Yeah.
we might unlock a deeper understanding of our own intelligence and potential.
This entire deep dive has been like one giant aha moment.
Right. Exactly.
We started with this question of whether AI can be fair when it's trained on a history of unfairness.
Right.
And now we're grappling with an even bigger question, I think.
And what is that?
What does it mean to be intelligent?
Wow.
Both for humans
Right.
and for the machines that we create.
It's a question that will likely occupy philosophers and scientists
Right.
for generations to come.
For a long time.
Yeah. But one thing is clear.
Okay.
The future of AI is inextricably intertwined with our own.
It is. And as we venture further into this uncharted territory,
Yeah.
the most important thing we can do is keep asking questions.
Of course.
Keep learning.
Yes.
And keep the lines of communication open between humans and the machines that we create.
Beautifully said.
Well, that wraps up another deep dive.
It does.
It's been an incredible journey.
It had.
Exploring the world of explainable AI.
Yeah.
Pondering these profound implications it holds for the future.
Absolutely.
As always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And until next time, keep those brains buzzing.